Mother Nature relented enough in Minnesota for the Guardians to play a little bit of a doubleheader, and the Guardians actually won a doubleheader game. Some very important players showed up for the Guardians ahead of a critical series coming this weekend. We'll tell you who it was.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another episode of Locked On Guardians. We cover your Cleveland Guardians every day, from the majors to the minors and the draft. And we'll do that a little bit again today, as we did every day this week, really. As we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we cover your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today. And every day, whatever you get podcasts. If you're new here or if you're an everydayer, you know me as Justin Latta. I have been watching Cleveland Guardians baseball my entire life, and I have been writing about the minor league system since 2007. You can find my work and analysis on their system at the News Herald, the Morning Journal, and at my Substack Next Year in Cleveland. And here, 5 days a week, and once again, with my friend and co-host, Jeff Ellis. Jeff, I missed you the last 2 days.
Yeah, it was definitely a little weird. Let us know how it felt for everyone below. I'm Jeff Ellis, one of the first people Locked On reach out to when it was time to talk baseball. I've been here for 6 years now. Before that, I was a nationally recognized author at Scout and 24/7, focused on prospects and the draft.
The big news of the day, of course, Jeff, is that Gene Segura retired, and he did not mention the Cleveland Guardians on his teams that he played for. That's quite a big snub.
That is a huge snub.
That's a very big snub. We'll get into that. No, we're not going to get into that today. We are going to talk about the Detroit series that starts today and how big that is. We'll talk about a couple of players that stepped up at a big time on the pitching side of things, and we'll start on the hitting side of things in this doubleheader. Jeff, the offense non-existent in Cincinnati over the weekend, except for Game 1. They should have won last Friday in Cincinnati.
In Game 2, they got on base more. Game 3, they got on base more than them. They should have probably won that one as well. Like
they had chances. They just squandered them. Yeah. They had a chance to win Game 1 of this. I guess we'll call it a doubleheader. It wasn't really a doubleheader, but it was. They played 1.5 games, and it took them a couple of innings to get going. They didn't really score any runs early on, coming out of the 2-day rain delay break. But they broke out late. They got 3 runs in the 9th inning. Not really surprised, to be honest. Joe Ryan is really good and has the kind of pitch mix that makes them struggle. But they got to him late, and yeah, they did. I don't blame him. I think that's a great decision, truthfully. I think that's a great decision ahead of going into a second game. You have your bullpen rested for Game 2. I think it was a good decision. He pitched really good up until the end of the game, and then they got to Johan Duran, as they have in the past too. Johan Duran is not a slouch, man. He's a really good pitcher, and they got to him. Credit to Bo Naylor for, I know you were talking about how he was having a terrible game. Down to their last strike, I think, and Bo Naylor rips a game-tying double. Carlos Santana had a good game. Some guys really woke up, I think, offensively, and that's a really good sign heading into this weekend in Detroit.
Yeah, in that game, it was slow going, but you go back to that 9th inning there, and Santana had the home run to tie it, and then the bullpen let him down throughout that game. There's no other way around it. The bullpen really cost him that first game. But to focus on the hitters, it's like Gavin Williams. Nope. Again, pitcher, hitter. Nolan Jones. I'm getting the wrong guy who's been up and down this year. Nolan Jones hitting 4 straight games now, and he was a big hit in the 9th. And then Bo Naylor, I would have bet on him being more likely in that situation to get the golden sombrero, get his 4th strikeout, than to get that double. It was a huge hit for a guy who has just plain struggled the whole game. Santana loves hitting in Minnesota. That much is clear with the home run and the walk. That also marks for Santana in these games. That's his 3rd straight 3-star performance for me. So nice to see Santana, we always said the expectation for him was to be about league average, like probably a little bit over. Like I wasn't expecting another 114, but I was hoping for like a 108. He's creeping that way as we get farther and farther away from the spring.
He's at 100 now.
He's at 100 as we get farther away from spring and things heat up.
Are you sure? The weather hasn't really turned yet. Not here in the Midwest anyway.
No,
it's here in Ohio. I can tell you that.
No, it does not feel like we normally do container gardening here. That hasn't happened this year because there's been no opportunity for it. It's been bad. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see Jones and Bo having those moments in the first game. And then, like I said, Santana was huge for them. Manzardo had a really good game. He had the double early, he had the walk late, and then I mean he murdered another baseball that probably should have been a single earlier in that game. And then game 2 was just not. I texted you after the Santana home run. I'm just like, that's nice, because it's like we've all been white knuckling it through this stretch. And I mean, for as much as we see in the comments of people talk about like this is a bad offense, it's like heading into these 2 games before they got 5 runs in each of them, they were 18th in baseball. Like the Royals are well below them. Like I think we sometimes have to recalibrate what a bad offense is. Do they have lots of holes? Absolutely. What I like to see.
Yeah.
I wish Gabby was playing more like Gabby of a month ago. It's been pretty ugly. Was one of his at bats was one of the worst.
But his walk today, his walk in game 2 was critical. Like that was a bases loaded walk. He could have easily chased in that spot, and that could have really changed the trajectory of that game. So even though it's not going great for him offensively the last couple of games or the last couple of weeks or so, that walk was pretty tremendous. Now, I think that Gabriel Arias the past couple of years probably strikes out in that at bat.
Yes,
so
agreed.
that's a huge credit for him. And yeah, it's been good to see Santana heat up. Nolan Jones, like you said, I know there's just so much discourse about Nolan Jones, and I get it. We can talk about right field a little bit because we got some news, but he had 3 hard hit balls in this game. Like that's the thing we've been talking about with Nolan Jones. Like the results aren't there, but the underlying data is there. I just don't know how long you stick around to wait to find
until Chase is healthy.
Well,
which may never happen.
I got news for you, Jeff. I got news for you. He is.
Do you?
He's going to Columbus. He'll be in Columbus on Thursday. He'll be playing with that outfield in Columbus is going to be crazy. You've got CJ Cave is playing the outfield some. You got Rodriguez, who they clearly don't care about. Petey Halpin. And now you're adding Chase DeLauder, plus Lane Thomas is rehabbing, but he may join the team in Detroit over the weekend. So it's going to get real interesting real soon. They might re-add, Noel to AAA or Will Brennan. Going to get weird. The other thing I'll say too, offensively, you brought this up. I mean, Jose, we haven't really dug in on Jose recently, but he's on a heater, man. He's playing
huge.
Some of the best baseball of the year, and it's just been. I feel like it's been a quiet. Like I guess that just defines his career, but he's like just having a very quietly hot stretch here in the month of April. But you brought up something before we started recording, and when you texted me was that when Jose was hitting well over the last couple of weeks, but they've been kind of struggling. It's the guy at the top of the order that they need to hit better, and he did in this game, and that I think that's what tells you makes a difference. When Stephen Kwan is hitting, this team wins, and that's easy to say because you're like, well, of course he's their second best hitter, so of course when they have their 2 best hitters hitting, they're going to win. But Jose was hitting the crap out of the ball and doing great during that ugly stretch. Kwan was not, and therefore they were losing. So Jose is going to get his numbers. They just got to get Kwan more consistent. So when he does his thing, man, this offense, it relies a lot on him.
Yeah, and when Jose had his struggles, they were still able to win. So like that's what I was kind of thinking about. It's like it seems like it really like Kwan is the engine. Now if you can get them both going, who knows? Like then maybe we're talking about a team that could make an ALCS, but right now, it's been
like
one
last
or
year?
the other. Like exactly. But it's a lot of fun to see. And you score 5 runs with this team, you expect to win. I really think in this Twin Series, you can't complain about the offense. That's kind of my view. Like there were some ups and downs. There's some chances for more. I'm still kind of a bit salty because Santana's first strike or second strike was very clearly a ball. He should have walked, which meant Jones's hit should have cleared. Your 6-5, like that can, like one bad call can completely shift the game. Now I know there's a lot of bad calls in the game, but that one was in a big situation, and it's Carlos Santana. Like if you're going to give a guy benefit of the doubt, I think he's one of the 5 most likely guys when you're talking about knowledge of the zone. So yeah, it's little things like that kind of still stick in my craw because you want to take both from the Twins. But also just final thought for me here, all the worries that this team was cold, that they were falling apart, and the Twins are the hottest team on the planet, and they split the series. I would take that every day of the week. When you look at the conditions, you look at what's happening, you look where both teams were. That's a net win for me.
It is. We did have one blip on the radar in this game. That was Cade Smith. We'll talk about how we feel about Cade Smith coming up in the next segment. We'll also talk about Gavin Williams. Is he turning a corner? Stay tuned for that next on today's Locked On Guardians. Get the parts you need from Skilled for Skilled Trades. That is supplyhouse.com. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. They have an easy-to-use website that is packed with helpful resources just for you to get the latest product info to help you get the job done right, and a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. So you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast, coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. You always talk to a real person, and trade pros who are looking for an extra edge can join their Trade Master program that's going to offer you exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line for your own business, free shipping, discounts on all of your orders. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. We've heard from people in these industries who say that ordering parts is a lot harder these days because you have chatbots and AI and automated ordering, all those kinds of things. But when you've got questions, you want to go to the people that know the products the best. You want to go to the most helpful website, and you want to talk to a real person to get things done. Join the Trade Master program at supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, if you use our promo code SH5, you're going to get 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Glad we start off with the positive. Some people maybe will look at this as a negative. Maybe there is some negatives, but they probably win game one if Cade Smith is just Cade Smith. And you might say, is that a blip on the radar? And I'm going to say overall it's a blip on the radar for Cade Smith. Like, it was a bad outing. He only threw fastballs, which is a little weird. He got hit. He gave up a hit by pitch. All three balls put in play against him were hard hit balls. Probably no surprise when you're throwing all fastballs, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to say it's a blip on the radar because, I don't know, Cody Clemens and Jonah Bride, like those guys aren't going to hit Cade Smith again, I don't think. And Jonah Bride's single had a 220 expected batting average. So, like, to me, those things are going to happen. But Cade Smith has been a little more hittable. What's funny is like his fielding independent pitching, which for those who aren't familiar, because I know we've had comments about stats and what they mean, and we're using all these stats, so not everybody knows what they mean. Fielding independent pitching is only it counts strikeouts, walks, and home runs, the three things pitchers can control. So Cade Smith's FIP is lower than it was a year ago. So to me, he's still pitching very well, but there are some things he could be doing better. The secondaries are not as good as they were a year ago. He seems less reliant on them. So I do think that's something to watch. The fastball velocity was down, but I'm not really worried about the fastball as much as I am the secondaries, Jeff. And you're muted, so I guess Jeff's not worried about anything. That's good to know, Jeff. Let's move on.
What I'm worried about is the control.
Is your mute button?
No, my mute button works perfectly, as we saw there. It did everything it's supposed to. What I'm worried about is the control, because you and I talked about, like, last year in the majors was the best control we have ever seen from Cade Smith. That is not who he's been in the minors. If you look at the data, it's like, you know, his walk percentage and percentile rankings. A year ago, he was 83rd percentile. This year, he's like 30th. Like, he's low. He is being more the guy. Sorry, 43rd, which is still low. I mean, that's almost half. He's being more maybe the pitcher we thought we were seeing when he was coming up. Because, and then the secondary, it is interesting. There's been less active spin on both of his secondary pitches, rather a significant amount of that active spin as opposed to just overall spin. So those two pitches are getting, you know, hit harder. They're getting picked up. Now, basically his four seamer a year ago was like a top 5 pitch in baseball in terms of four seam. And it's solid this year. The pitch to Clemens is just a middle four seamer, but you can't throw one pitch. Like, you know, we talked about with Class A. It's like, well, even throwing 2 pitches maybe isn't enough. Cade right now, listen, he got hit hard a year ago and they made contact. That's always been part of his thing. Mm-hmm. It is interesting that a year ago he got barreled more than he was this year. He's getting barreled less, and he's but they're also, his ground ball rate this year is you know, the other big shift, as well as his walk rate. So yeah, there's definitely some things going on there that have me a little more concerned. It's not like Class A where we looked at the data and it's like he's getting BABIP to death. Like, I could just sit there and point almost directly to that. In this case, it's kind of 2 or 3 things. So my concern is a little bit higher than Class A's. I still think he's going to be good. I also think, I think there's a level where you have to understand and appreciate the 2024 was his rookie year and was likely his career year, because I mean those numbers are like, if he did that every year for a decade, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Like that's I'm just not comfortable giving anyone a Hall of Fame tag that early on. There's was always going to be some regression. My biggest concern is it's the command and control. Like it's hitting the guy, it's walking more guys. There's almost every single outing. I think it's like in his last 8 outings, 6 of the 8, he's allowed a runner on. Like he's not having clean sheets. He's not being kind of quite that level of dominant. And that is where my concern kind of lies. It's a slightly elevated, but I wouldn't say I'm full panic alert over here.
Yeah, he's using the fastball a little bit more than he was a year ago. The splitter usage is down, and that's because the splitter and sleeper are both getting hit hard this year. I will say, you're talking about getting BABIP death. Cade Smith's BABIP against is 380. Class A's is 413. Yeah. So there is still an element of bad luck going on for Class A, I will say. But obviously it was another direction last year where he was having a BABIP that was really low. So it's kind of evening out, which is how baseball works, truthfully. But yeah, I'm not overly concerned either. And they would have, but I think they would have won. Well, I don't know. I was to say they would have won that game if it kept it tied. But extra innings on the road is so hard, and who knows how that would have shifted things, because the bullpen. You used we didn't even talk about Jacob Junis, but you used Jacob Junis in game 1. He wasn't good. Yeah, he was not good, and ironically, their best pitcher in this game was Joey Cantillo, which is surprising because we were saying the last couple outings for Joey Cantillo have been really bad. Kobe Allard was not fantastic either. He gave his first run as a Guardian, and didn't look as good as he had most of this season, but. You're going to have games like that. I mean, Jacob Junis is probably the one to be more concerned about than Cade Smith, because I think it's
last 8, he's given up a run.
Yeah, I think it's time to pull him out of leverage spots at this point, which is weird because now you've got, like you said, you have 2 long guys. We'll talk more about the bullpen tomorrow and tomorrow's show, so stick around for that. But it might be time to make some adjustments in that bullpen. The guy that was really not concerning, but was really encouraging in that second game, Jeff, was Gavin Williams. Just kind of looking at the last couple of box scores for him and kind of digging into the data, I think he's turned a corner a little bit. Today was, ironically, his fastball was down by 1.5 miles, and he had his second most whiffs of the year on the fastball, and actually his tied for 5th most of his career at 10. So he had much better fastball command and control in this one, despite lower velocity, and he was just all over the plate. Like, he was on the plate with it. He was mixing different areas of the zone. He had some hard times locating it lower in the zone because I think he just relies a lot on the top of the zone, that ride. I think he wants to hit the top of the zone with the fastball. So he doesn't have as good control at the bottom of the zone, but he was moving the ball in and out, like inside to lefties and outside to righties. Like, he was doing a good job hitting his spots there. So I'm not really surprised that his fastball maybe was his second best fastball of the season, and it was down 1.5 miles. The last couple of starts, like, I know he had the walks against the Phillies, but he got out of trouble, got some swings and misses. He dominated the Brewers lineup, even though, the Brewers lineup's not great. And he came out today and maybe had his best performance of the season. Just 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. I mean, 2 hits. I think that was, and they needed, that was the most important outing because the Phillies one was big. They needed the Phillies one, and they won that one. But they needed a long outing in game 2 because you had that first game, right? You were already dipping into the bullpen, and you got a big series at Detroit coming ahead. You want to make sure you're not gassing your entire bullpen. So it was really critical for Gavin to come out and have a good game, and he did that. So I'm really encouraged that the last couple starts been better, but I'm really encouraged he stepped up at a time they really needed him.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 4 hard hits as opposed to Paddock, who had 11 hard hits. Like, Cleveland was really hitting Paddock hard. They just weren't getting results. For Williams, it was just, the 13 total swings and misses. Everything was there. Everything you want to see was there. Basically, Ryan Jeffers was the only guy who had some luck against him consistently. But for me, again, I'm always looking at the free passes. I mean, that's how he gave up the run, right? Wasn't it a free pass and a hit?
It was a walk, yeah.
So it's like, it feels like the walks always come back to haunt you. And luckily after that, he shut it all down and had a fantastic rest of the time. How about the fact that with this game, his ERA is under 4? Like, you talk about steady improvement. I know ERA is like, it's an outdated stat. It's one of those that we talk about, but there's still, it's not like, it's kind of like batting average where there's value to it, but it is not like the value it was when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. Like, it's not the end all be all, but there's still things to gain and take from it. It's, nice to see. We need Gavin. We need consistency. And
yeah, I don't think I don't think the walks are ever going to come down. Like,
no,
he had 2 walks in this one. I could see him, continually walking 2 or 3 guys now, and that might be problematic. But if he has the ability to overcome walks because he has the stuff. The thing is, when he does that, he has to make sure he's not sitting just fastball the entire time. Now, in this outing, he did ramp up his fastball usage. He didn't really go to the cutter as much. He didn't go to the sweeper. He's not really using his curveball at all. And those pitches really didn't do a whole lot for him today. But his fastball was effective, and I'm encouraged by that, considering the fastball this year has been getting drilled for him for the most part. It's been the starts where he mixes up his pitch mix the most is where he's been most successful. But he threw more fastballs in this one today, and he dominated doing that. So if he can get his best version of his fastball back, if he's going to be a guy who relies on his fastball like that, he's got to get this version every start out, because that's the only way it's going to work. So hopefully he can carry that over into his next start.
I agree. You stated it well. I can't add more. No cherry on top from me.
All right, we'll talk about the Tigers series coming up this weekend. How big is it, and how much weight should we put into this one coming up on today's Locked On Guardians? Hey, you right there listening or watching. We thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day wherever it is you get podcasts. Please, if you love the podcast, even if you just like it, even if you just tolerate it, just hit the bell on YouTube so you never miss a video. We have reaction videos to every game. We have videos to all breaking news and big things going on. We, of course, have episodes 5 days a week. And on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you auto-download so you never miss an episode. And that includes the MLB Squad Show. No MLB Squad Show this week. We're reworking the times and the cadence on that. But it'll be back next week, and you can get that as part of your Locked On Guardians feed as well. And if you like what you're hearing, too, would encourage you to become an insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians so we can text you when there's rainouts. We can text you when there's big news. Like, our insiders already knew when we were recording this that Chase DeLauder was going to Columbus. So more news like that, additional mock drafts from Jeff, my prospect handbook, all that stuff is in our Google Drive for our insiders, including occasional newsletters. Those could be there too if we do those. So all that over at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians. All right, Jeff, I hate to say that any May series is big, and I'm not going to say it's make or break. I said this on Tuesday's show. I said, this stretch against the Twins, the Tigers, and the Dodgers was not going to make or break the season, but it's definitely going to determine the direction they go in terms of having the chase or, being in a comfortable spot where they're at. I think mission accomplished in Minnesota. Like you said, you split a doubleheader and you'll play the third game sometime in September. So mission accomplished there. That being said, as we go into this series of the Tigers, they are red hot. The Twins finally cooled off and the Guardians won. The Tigers are just red hot. They're beating everybody. Everything is going right for them this year. Like, the only things that are going wrong for the Tigers this year is, like, Jack Flaherty hasn't been great, and they just lost Reese Olson to the injured list, which my fantasy team is.
Jason Foley's got they lost part of their pen.
He's out for the year. Yeah, but for the most part, everybody's having a career year. Like,
Highest BABIP in baseball as a team.
Tarek Skubal's amazing. Jackson Jobe has been good. I think Casey Mize is still out. So they've had some injuries, truthfully. But, like, Riley Green's awesome. Torkelson's
struggled. He's the one guy who's, like, really struggled. I think he's got a negative WAR. Jobe.
Oh, I mean, I've watched Jobe in some starts, and he's been pretty good. I guess it's been up and down. But Torkelson's back. Javi Baez has resurrected his career, which is crazy. Dylan Dingler looks like he's broken out a little bit. It's a really good team. They're playing very well. I'm very impressed, I have to say. I wasn't sure they could repeat their success from last season, but they've got good pitching. Getting Javi Baez back to being a halfway decent baseball player is a miracle, to be honest with you. And again, Riley Green's really good. Kerry Carpenter, we haven't forgot about Kerry Bonds yet. I don't think Emmanuel Clase has. So I will say, anything less than a sweep this week, or not sweep, anything less than a sweep is not good enough. You got to win all four. No. Anything less than a split, probably not ideal this weekend. It's even for May. Like, I don't. The Tigers, you don't want them to get too far ahead, and you also don't want to, this is the first time you're facing the Tigers this year too. So those tiebreakers, if it gets to that, all that kind of stuff, I think a split has to happen this weekend.
The one thing I always like to talk about is regression is a cruel mistress. Tigers have the highest team BABIP and the 7th lowest pitcher BABIP. They've been good. Don't get me wrong. They're a very good team. They've also been the luckiest team in baseball. That's just the truth of it. You can go through and look at the numbers. Like, they've really benefited. Unless you think, Zach McKinstry can keep a 380, or Javi Baez, who's, teams are going to start, they've known how to work him. There's some, so I'm not as concerned.
He still chases a lot. Yeah.
He still chases a lot. You can still work around him. Torkelson, I think, has made improvements. Like, that's a guy who's made improvements. I liked when people were saying Riley Green hasn't even hit a stride yet. I'm like, he's playing really well. It's a good, it's a good to great lineup with a really strong pen that's kind of built like Cleveland's. And then a rotation that's got, maybe the best pitcher on the planet, one could make a case for. So it's a very good team. It's also a team that's had everything kind of go their way in the early going. I'm okay with not getting swept. That's kind of where I am, because it is such a long season. You want to take one. The back of their rotation has not been strong, like Job and Montero.
Well, guess what? You're not getting Montero this week. I mean, you're getting Joe, but you're not getting Montero because Casey Mize is coming back. So
and Mize is a guy that the expected stats do not match the performance. So I've always been a Casey Mize fan. So
yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup this weekend. Tanner, you want to get off to a good start with Tanner. Obviously, he's got to set the tone for the series and go out and pitch well. He pitched well against them last year, I will say. And he had a couple starts last season where he had to face them in back-to-back starts. That's always hard. So you'll have to use, Tanner has to get off to a good start on Thursday night tonight, because then you got Slade Ciccone and Luis Ortiz and Logan Allen. That Sunday game, Jeff, and this is what's hilarious too. We can look at the schedule and we can say, wow, Logan Allen and Tarek Skubal on Sunday. Well, you just chalk it up to being the Tigers a win, right? But rarely in baseball do things go the way you think they're going to go, especially with Cleveland. Like, I think a lot of times this year, like, whatever I thought was going to happen definitely didn't, which I don't know if that says about me, about what I know about baseball or the Guardians or just baseball in general. That looks like a lopsided matchup, but I guess you never know. They Lane Thomas might be in Detroit with them this weekend, so maybe Lane Thomas can show up on Sunday and greet Tarek Skubal with a grand slam. And Luis Ortiz has bat missing stuff. Like, he can tame the Tigers lineup if he has stuff around the strike zone.
Ortiz has the second best four-seam fastball whiff rate in baseball behind Zach Wheeler. It goes Zach Wheeler, Luis Ortiz, Tarek Skubal, Garrett Crochet.
That tracks. Yeah, that's pretty good company to be in.
That's really good company. That's what you want to see. Like, 5th, Hunter Brown, who some people might say would win the Cy Young. 6th, Michael King. Like, it's definitely almost a feeling of which one of these is not like the other, but he's got the ability to miss. That's fantastic. I mean, that's why they went out of their way to add him, right? Like,
yeah. This is gonna be a fun series. I hope it's a fun series, but it's a fun matchup, I would say, over the week. For a 4-game series at a time, the Tigers are playing really good. This is going to be an important series. Like you don't want to get swept. You definitely want to at least take 2 of 4, I think, for A, tiebreaker purposes, and B, just that the Tigers aren't like galloping out ahead of you, as the Guardians, Royals, and Twins are all kind of muddled in the middle in terms of record and games back of first place, even though by the time we come back next week, it's going to be Memorial Day. So that's kind of the first time. I don't know if that adage has changed a little bit because of the added playoff spots. So I feel like that marker has, was something people used a long time ago. I've been hearing it for a long time. With the added playoff spots, maybe it doesn't hold as much significance as it used to, but it's still something to look at. And, a split this weekend keeps you within striking distance until you can get healthy with Lane Thomas and Shane Bieber and somebody playing second base that's, more consistent. We'll talk about second base and the plans a little bit more tomorrow. We'll talk about the bullpen a little bit more tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Again, Jeff, I'm just going to keep pointing to this. Maybe they won't. But there's still so many things with this team that hasn't gone right so far. Like Gavin Williams finally on a good stretch, right? Tanner hasn't been consistent. You've got nothing from right field. Second base outside of Gabby's hot stretch until he moved to shortstop has been, iffy. Carlos Santana hadn't come around in the month of April. The bullpen had issues with Class A. They're still hanging around, and I still think better days are ahead for them. Maybe those things won't come into place. Maybe they won't click, and it'll just be a year where they're madly inconsistent. But I still think those things could happen, and I still think that they are hanging around in spite of that. So that's why I want them to this week. I want them to hang around against the Tigers and just take 2 of 4.
I said the Tigers were maybe the luckiest team in baseball. Cleveland, the unluckiest. 3rd highest pitching BABIP, well above league average, and 4th lowest hitter BABIP. So you could argue you have the luckiest team in baseball versus the unluckiest team in baseball this weekend. And, if regression is a real pain in the backside, when it's positive regression, or someone yelled at us that that's not a thing, when it is progression
to the mean.
Yeah,
progression to the mean.
Progression. Yeah. That Cleveland, the sky is not falling.
It's not. No.
Yeah.
I mean, rain is falling. It continues to
a lot of rain. Can we just hurry up and get some warm weather? I had to turn the heat back on. My God.
I hope the Guardians this week against the Tigers,
they feel
turn the heat on, please. But I hope they feel aggrieved by not being mentioned in Gene Segura's retirement announcement. I think that's just very disrespectful, and I hope they go out and they play like they're upset by it.
He's going to come out of retirement to play second base for him. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show.
Yeah, tomorrow's show, Guardians Tigers game 1, and the plan for second base for the rest of the year. Who will it be? What do they need to do? Yeah, Gene Segura. And we'll talk about some bullpen moves that they hopefully will make here in the coming days, weeks. And yeah, Chase DeLauder going to Columbus. Lane Thomas should be coming back this weekend. Things could be getting really interesting soon.
Lane homered today.
They're always interesting here. Yeah, B, he's been hitting well lately. Yeah.
Well,
things are always interesting here on Locked On Guardians, though.
You never know what's going to happen. Ooh, thank you all for joining us. Remember to
rate
and review, download. Oh, great. Now you tell me. That explains a lot at school. Thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily. If you're a teacher, you know what it means when it's a full moon. Thank you all for joining us, and go Guardians, go.